She spent her last $8 on a stranger she thought might die in front of her. The next morning, 100 black SUVs swarmed her street, not to take anything, but to give her everything. It happened at a gas station. Just after 11 p.m., Sienna Clark crouched beside a man in a crisp black suit, his face pale and drenched in sweat. "Stay with me," she whispered, holding a water bottle to his lips with trembling hands. A few feet away, her beat-up Honda idled on fumes. Her daughter Maya slept in the back seat. That bottle of water and a pack of aspirin had cost her everything she had left. $8. Gone. No safety net. No plan B. The man gripped her wrist weakly. "Hart," he gasped. "Please." Behind them, the gas station clerk muttered, "Should have just minded your business." But Sienna hadn't. She couldn't, because something in that man's eyes reminded her of the worst day of her life. And what she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the man she just saved was one of the most powerful CEOs in America. "Let me take you back to the morning before everything changed." It began like every other day. Cereal running low, Maya's inhaler nearly empty, and rent knocking on the door. Sienna's world was held together by $8, her grandmother's voice in her head, and the kind of grit that never made headlines until that night. The next morning, the world hadn't changed, but something in the air felt different. The sky was gray, the wind sharp, and Sienna's body ached from another sleepless night. She walked Maya to the neighbor's door like always, hugging her daughter a little tighter before handing her over. Maya didn't notice anything was wrong. She was humming, wrapped in her pink jacket and clutching her inhaler like a toy. "Mommy, will we have pancakes tomorrow?" Sienna smiled, though her chest tightened. "If we're lucky, baby." Once Maya was safely inside, Sienna walked fast to the bus stop. Her legs were tired, but adrenaline still buzzed in her veins from the night before. She couldn't stop thinking about him. The man in the suit, how cold his skin had felt, how his eyes had locked on hers like he was afraid to die alone. At the diner, the morning crew was already gathered in the back booth, sipping coffee and scrolling on their phones. Sienna clocked in, tucked her bag away, and started tying her apron when she heard Linda gasp. "Oh my God! Is this?" Sienna turned. A phone was being passed around. The video was grainy, taken from across the gas station lot. It showed her, plain as day, kneeling beside a man in a black suit, a bottle of water in one hand, her other pressed to his chest. Around her, people just stood there. "That's you," Linda said quietly. The booth fell silent. Then the floodgates opened. "She really did that? Girl, why didn't you say anything?" "You see the comments? Some folks say she's a plant." Sienna stepped back. "Wait, what?" The screen is filled with scrolling text. Some praised her. "Angel in Atlanta. We need more people like her." Others weren't so kind. Bet she knew who he was. "Another stunt for clout. I didn't know anyone was filming," Sienna murmured. Her voice was small. Another coworker leaned in, phone now playing a news segment. Breaking overnight. Cooper Tech founder and billionaire philanthropist John Cooper is recovering at Piedmont Hospital after collapsing at a local gas station. Eyewitnesses say a woman, identity unknown, acted quickly, possibly saving his life. Cooper is the founder of the Lily's Legacy Foundation, named after his daughter who passed away 5 years ago. Sienna stared at the screen, stunned. Her stomach turned. John Cooper. That was him. She sank into the nearest booth, hands shaking. "I didn't know who he was," she whispered. He needed help. Linda sat beside her and squeezed her hand. "You did the right thing. That's all that matters." But Sienna wasn't so sure. All she could think about was her rent due in 3 days, the nearly empty fridge, the balance in her bank account, $247. She hadn't helped him because of who he was. She hadn't even known his name. That night at home, she tried to ignore the buzz. The local news was on in the background. Maya was coloring at the table while Sienna reheated canned soup and counted laundry quarters. On the screen, footage from the hospital showed John Cooper waking up, pale and groggy. A reporter leaned in. "Do you remember anything about what happened?" John's voice was barely audible. "A woman. She helped me, kept me awake, told me to stay." Sienna's heart stopped. Maya looked up. "Is that the man you helped?" Sienna turned off the TV. "Eat your soup, sweetheart." A knock came at the door 20 minutes later. 2, sharp and insistent. She opened it to find a woman in a blazer holding a microphone, a cameraman behind her. "Sienna Clark?" Sienna stiffened. "No interviews." Another voice chimed in from the stairwell. Hey, girl, I'm filming a TikTok series, Hometown Heroes. Can I tag you? Sienna slammed the door. Her hands trembled as she locked it. She turned to see Maya watching her from the couch, a crayon in her hand frozen mid-color. I'm sorry, baby, Sienna whispered, crouching beside her. People are just curious right now. That night, long after Maya had fallen asleep, Sienna sat on the couch, exhausted. The apartment was quiet, except for the soft hum of the fridge. She had just started to doze when the floor began to tremble, a low rumble rising like thunder. Her eyes snapped open. Outside, a strange sound was growing louder. Engines. Not one or two, but dozens. She crept to the window, parted the blinds, and froze. Headlights. So many of them. A line of black SUVs was turning onto her street, one after another. Tinted windows. Dark chrome. All of them crawling toward her building in eerie, deliberate silence. Sienna's breath caught in her throat. She had no idea what was about to happen. The engines idled low outside, growling like distant thunder that refused to fade. Sienna stood frozen behind the blinds, heart pounding. Her apartment walls buzzed with tension, her breath catching in her throat as the line of black SUVs stretched further than she could see. Down the hall, a neighbor shouted, "It's the feds!" Another voice answered, panicked, "Is it ICE? Somebody call Keisha!" Doors creaked open all over the building. People stumbled onto balconies and stoops in robes, slippers, and headscarves. Someone sprinted outside barefoot with a baby on their hip. Sienna backed away from the window, her instincts screaming for her to keep Maya inside. But something held her there, a pull. Like the moment she'd seen that man collapse, it wasn't curiosity. It was something deeper. The doors of the SUVs opened in eerie unison like choreography. From each one stepped a person wearing a navy blue jacket embroidered with a name she now recognized, Lily's Legacy Foundation. They carried clipboards, cameras, fold-out signs, and equipment bags. And from the lead vehicle, a man stepped out slowly, holding onto the doorframe like he still wasn't steady on his feet. It was him, John Cooper, pale, thin, but upright, wearing a charcoal suit and no tie. A white hospital band still wrapped around his wrist. He didn't look like the man on the covers of Forbes or Tech World. He looked tired, human, real. He walked past his staff, past the crowd that had formed on the sidewalk. His eyes scanned the building like he already knew exactly where to look. They landed on her window. Sienna felt her chest cave in and expand all at once. She stepped outside before she could change her mind. Maya trailed behind her in a hoodie 2 sizes too big. The crowd parted as he approached. He stopped a few feet in front of her and took a long breath. "Miss Clark?" His voice cracked, soft and raspy from the hospital. Sienna nodded, barely able to find her own. "Yes." He looked down, then back at her, eyes glassy. "You saw a human," he said. "Not a headline, not a wallet, not a scandal waiting to happen. Just a man in trouble." Sienna's throat tightened. "You needed help. That's all I saw." John glanced at Maya and blinked hard. He turned, raised his hand, and one of the Lily's Legacy volunteers rolled over a speaker and microphone stand. Another handed him a note. He waved it off. He stepped up to the mic, his voice echoing through the street. "Yesterday, I nearly died. A complete stranger refused to let that happen," the crowd murmured. Some phones came out recording. "I've spent years building a company and a foundation in my daughter's name. But in the moment I needed it most, none of those things could save me. A woman named Sienna Clark did." He turned to gesture at her. Cameras flashed. Sienna stood rooted, clutching Maya's hand like it was the only real thing left in the world. "So," he continued, "we're here to give back. Starting today, Miss Clark will serve as the new community coordinator for Lily's Legacy." Gasps. Whispers. "She'll have a full-time salary, benefits, and Maya," he smiled down at her, "will be covered with immediate medical support. That includes inhalers, therapy, and school care. Whatever she needs." Maya lit up. "Really?" John nodded. "And one more thing," he said, turning back to the crowd. "This neighborhood raised Sienna, and now it deserves more. We're building a community center right here on the next block. After-school programs, free clinics, job training. It'll be called Clark House." A beat of stunned silence. Then cheers, applause. Some people cried. The mood flipped like a switch. Kids ran out onto porches. Someone started a chant. "Clark House! Clark House!" Sienna's knees almost buckled, but she didn't cry. She just reached for Maya and held her close. A few neighbors stood back, arms crossed. "It's a stunt," one muttered. "It will probably be condos in a year." John seemed to hear it. He turned to Sienna, voice low. "I know it's a lot." She nodded, still trying to process the size of it all. "Why me?" He paused. "Because my daughter Lily died 5 years ago. Asthma attack. In a parking garage. She was alone. People walked past." His hand shook. "You didn't walk past me, and that reminded me I still have work to do." She didn't know what to say, so she simply whispered, "Thank you." Before he could reply, another figure appeared. Mr. Glavin, her landlord. Tan windbreaker, clipboard, false smile. "Well, this is something," he said loudly, eyeing the cameras. "I've always believed in uplifting the community. Of course, with all this traffic, we'll need to reevaluate market rates. I'm thinking of updating leases next quarter." John's assistant stepped in immediately, flanked by 2 legal reps. "Sir, we'll speak with you separately." Sienna's stomach turned. She saw exactly where this was going. She stepped in front of them. "No." Everyone looked at her. She pointed to her building. "This doesn't work if people get hurt because of me. If you raise rent or kick anyone out to cash in, then this isn't kindness. It's PR. Clark House can't stand that." John held her gaze. Something softened in his expression. Respect, maybe even relief. "Then we do it your way," he said. "Starting now," the landlord sputtered. The cameras kept rolling. Sienna didn't smile. Not yet. But she felt something loosen inside her, just a little. Something was beginning, not just for her, but for everyone watching. The press had faded. The street had quieted. But for Sienna, life had only gotten louder. Within a week, the empty lot next to the old laundromat buzzed with activity. Volunteers hammering, city workers clearing trash, muralists sketching bold outlines on plywood fencing. It wasn't just talk anymore. Clark House was becoming real. At the planning table, tucked inside a borrowed conference room, Sienna sat surrounded by architects, educators, and nonprofit reps. Her voice trembled the first time she spoke up, but she found her rhythm. "We need after-school tutoring for kids whose parents work night shifts. A pantry stocked with real food, not just canned corn and salt packets. A clinic for asthma meds. Maya's not the only kid out here struggling to breathe." Someone across the table raised an eyebrow. "And how will we staff all that?" Sienna didn't blink. "You give people training, trust, and purpose? This neighborhood will staff itself." By the 3rd meeting, people started taking notes when she spoke. Still, when she stepped into Cooper Tech HQ for onboarding, it was a different story. Security badges, sleek glass elevators, office chatter so polished it sounded like a commercial. Her thrift store blazer felt like armor. At the front desk, a young woman greeted her with a bright smile. "Welcome to the team, Miss Clark. You'll be shadowing 2 senior case managers and reporting to community initiatives. Here's your login packet." Sienna took the folder, nodding politely, pretending her hands weren't shaking. Her first few days were full of acronyms she didn't know and systems she'd never used. CRM reports, grant compliance, fiscal allocations. She stayed late every day, taking notes in the margins, Googling after Maya went to sleep. She didn't want to just be the face of the foundation. She wanted to earn it. But while she was busy building something real, the internet was tearing something down. The first wave came like a ripple. A few comments under news articles. Then screenshots of the gas station video resurfaced with captions like, "Single mom saves billionaire." Too convenient. She knew who he was. No way this wasn't staged. Modern gold digger, rebranded. Sienna didn't respond. She deleted the worst ones, blocked strangers, and turned off notifications. But at night, when Maya was asleep, she'd scroll too long, each post eating a little more of the light she'd started to find. She never showed it at work. She wore her badge. She asked questions. She built program outlines and practice budgets and proposed a single-parent legal clinic. But by the end of the week, the heaviness followed her home like a shadow. Then came the video. Not some polished PR edit, but a raw, uncut cell phone clip. John Cooper sitting alone on a folding chair in the unfinished Clark House lot. No suit, just a hoodie and jeans. He looked straight into the camera, voice low and rough. "My daughter Lily died because help didn't come in time. I buried myself in spreadsheets and speeches thinking money could fix it." But Sienna Clark, she didn't ask what I was worth. She just saw someone in pain and stepped up. "That's what legacy should look like." He paused, eyes red. "This isn't a campaign. It's redemption. Hers. Mine. Maybe yours. He stood up, walked off screen. Just like that, the clip exploded online. The hashtag, #BeLikeSienna, started trending. People reposted the mural sketches. A group of teenagers from Chicago offered to design a website for Clark House. For free. The comments changed, almost overnight. Not all of them, but enough. Enough to breathe again. Sienna leaned harder into the work. She kept her shifts at the diner on weekends, unsure if the new life would last. Her feet ached the same. The tips were smaller now, but the routine comforted her. Something familiar when the rest of her world was shifting. One afternoon, she walked back into the gas station where it all started. The bell above the door chimed. The same clerk was behind the counter. He looked up and froze. You came back. Sienna nodded, unsure what to say. The man reached under the counter and pulled out a fresh bottle of water, slid it across to her. No charge. That was a messed up night. I should have helped. I didn't. I'm sorry. Sienna gave a soft smile, took the bottle, and said only, thanks. Outside, kids were helping repaint a wall that would become the future mural. The words, "One act can change the world," were sketched faintly across the top, but not everything was a celebration. That night, a new article dropped from a fringe blog with a loud voice. Exclusive. Cooper Tech closing rural office while funding Clark House. Real kindness or corporate diversion. The post showed blurry images of shuttered buildings and former employees being let go. It framed Clark House as a shiny distraction, not a genuine mission. The comments turned bitter again. City gets saved. Small towns get sold off, one read. Sienna sat at her kitchen table, fists clenched, reading line after line. She stood up and grabbed her notebook. The next morning, she requested a meeting with the board. Not a PR cleanup. Not silence. Whatever we're building, she said firmly, we build it transparently. I want public reporting. Community oversight. No lies. Not here. The room went quiet. She didn't back down. If Clark House was going to stand for something, it had to stand for all of them. The folding chairs squeaked against the church. Basement floor as neighbors shifted, crossed arms, and narrowed eyes. The air was thick with doubt. Not anger, not yet, but something heavier, skepticism. The kind that grows in places where promises have come and gone like weather. Sienna stood beside John at the front of the room. A community forum sign duct-taped to the podium behind them. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. No reporters, no PR staff. Just people. Real ones. An older woman in the second row raised her hand. Mr. Cooper, how do we know this place won't just be a tax write-off or some photo op for your company? Before John could answer, another voice chimed in. Mr. Jenkins from Sienna's building. We've seen this before. Y'all build something nice, then it goes private. Or it disappears. Sienna stepped forward. Her voice didn't shake this time. That's why we're doing things differently, she said. Clark House won't be run behind closed doors. We're creating a community board. Residents, single parents, local educators to help decide where funds go, what programs we run, and who we hire. She paused, letting that settle. And I'm proposing an independent audit of every dollar that comes in and goes out. Public reports posted quarterly. This isn't about control. It's about trust. I'm not asking you to believe in me. I'm asking you to help me build something worth believing in. Silence. Then slow nods. A few murmurs of agreement. Even Mr. Jenkins leaned back, thoughtful. John stepped up to the mic next. I support it. Fully. Whatever transparency this community needs, we'll provide it. No one clapped, but no one walked out either. That was enough for now. Later that night, after the church lights dimmed and the last folding chair was stacked, Sienna found John sitting alone in one of the pews, hands clasped, eyes tired. You okay? She asked, sliding in beside him. He gave a dry chuckle. Haven't slept more than 4 hours in a year. Probably longer. I still hear her voice sometimes, Lily, when I'm between sleep and waking. Sienna didn't push. She just sat there, both of them staring at the quiet altar. You know what helped me that night? He said softly. Your voice. You told me to breathe. She nodded slowly. You want me to show you something? He nodded. Sienna sat up straight and placed one hand over her chest, the other over her stomach. In through the nose, 4 counts. Hold it. Then out slowly through your mouth. John mirrored her. They breathed together in the echoing silence of the empty church. The next few weeks were a blur of movement. Sienna balanced Clark House planning with HR check-ins, spreadsheets, training modules, and fieldwork. She still made it home in time to help Maya with homework, most nights. One evening, Maya's breathing grew shallow. She wheezed between words, clutching her chest. Panic surged through Sienna, but for the first time in her life, she didn't freeze. She reached for the new insurance card in her wallet, called the 24-hour nurse line, then drove Maya to a clinic that didn't ask for payment up front. In less than an hour, Maya had a fresh inhaler and a clean bill of health. When they got home, Maya whispered, "I can breathe again, Mommy." Sienna nearly cried right there on the couch. At the construction site, Clark House took shape, walls rising, beams hoisted, the smell of fresh timber settling over the lot. Volunteers showed up daily, including some who'd once been skeptics, Mr. Jenkins, after watching the crew repair his crumbling front steps, asked if there'd be space for a woodshop. "I used to teach carpentry before my back went bad," he said, scratching his chin. "Be nice to show kids how to build with their hands. You in?" Sienna asked. He grunted but nodded. "Yeah, I'm in." Then the setback. Permits stalled. Rumors bloomed. The city's pulling out. Construction's over budget. Clark House was a scam after all. Sienna didn't panic. She gathered the paperwork, called her city contact, and marched into City Hall with a list of every inspection passed, every signature received. She stayed calm, clear, professional. 2 days later, the permits were approved. The work resumed. One afternoon between meetings, she visited Cooper Tech headquarters. She wandered to the main lobby where a glass wall displayed a memorial for Lily. Photos, art, letters from staff. At the bottom, a small plaque read, "In memory of what we lost. In hope for what we build." Sienna reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a folded paper crane, carefully creased, made from one of Maya's old drawings. She tucked it into the corner beneath Lily's photo. On the inside, "Thank you for sending your dad to us." The opening date for Clark House was set. Flyers printed, ribbons ordered, invitations sent. That night, after putting Maya to bed, Sienna found an envelope slid under her apartment door. No return address. She opened it slowly. Inside, a single piece of paper. No signature. Just 5 words typed, "Stay in your lane, girl." She stared at it for a long time. Her hands didn't shake. Not this time. She folded the note in half, walked it to the kitchen trash, and dropped it in. Then she stood at the mirror, tied her hair back, and whispered, "I make my own lane." The morning sun poured golden over the street where it had all started. What used to be lined with sirens, suspicion, and fear was now full of folding chairs, balloons, strollers, folding fans, lawn chairs, and laughter. Neighbors who once kept to themselves now stood shoulder to shoulder. Children chased bubbles. Old men played dominoes at folding tables. Teens posed for selfies under strings of handmade paper cranes. The Clark House dedication day had arrived. The center stood proudly at the corner, 3 stories of brick and light, banners fluttering from its balconies. The new mural wrapped across the side wall, facing the community that had raised its subject, painted in vivid colors. The mural showed a moment frozen in time. Sienna kneeling on the pavement, holding out a water bottle, her face lit with quiet resolve. Behind her, Maya stood in the background holding a sunflower high toward the sky. Across the top, in bold letters, "Kindness finds its way home." Sienna stood at the edge of the crowd, clutching Maya's hand. She barely recognized her own life. She was pulled back by the sound of applause. John Cooper had stepped up to the podium. No prepared speech, no papers in hand. Just him and the mic. He looked out at the crowd, then up at the mural, his voice steady but thick. "Lily's legacy was born from loss," he began. "A kind of grief I never thought I'd escape. But grief doesn't build a future. Love does, and that's what Clark House is. It's not a building, it's a promise. One woman reminded me how to keep that promise. With water, aspirin, and the courage to care when no one else did." The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. He turned to Sienna, then stepped back. A volunteer gestured for her to come forward. Sienna stepped up, Maya now holding her hand tighter than ever. The mic felt cold. Her knees trembled. But when she looked out and saw Mr. Jenkins in the front row, the gas station clerk off to the side in a volunteer shirt, and the shy kid who had filmed her holding a camera with a media badge, something inside her calmed. "My name is Sienna Clark," she said. "Some of you already know me. Most of you know what happened." She smiled faintly. "But today's not about what went wrong. It's about what we made out of it. She paused, took a breath. Last year, I had $8 to my name, and I thought that money was all I had left to lose. But I didn't lose it. I invested it in someone I didn't know, in a moment I didn't plan for. She looked out at the faces, neighbors, skeptics, kids in Clark House t-shirts. I didn't build this place alone, and I won't run it alone either. This center belongs to all of us, every tenant in my building. Every kid is looking for a place to study. Every parent praying their child can breathe tonight. This is yours, so let's protect it together. Applause. A cheer from the back. Maya looked up at her mom, eyes shining. The ribbon was cut. The doors opened. Inside, the building came to life, like it had just been waiting for this moment. The clinic gleamed with stocked inhalers and blood pressure monitors. The pantry shelves overflowed. The tutoring lab hummed with donated computers and a dozen volunteer teachers. Sienna watched as the gas station clerk handed out water bottles to guests. He caught her eye, smiled sheepishly, and gave a small salute. Nearby, the young man who'd once filmed her at the gas station approached. I never said thank you, he said quietly. I was wrong to stand by, but I want to help now. He handed her a flyer. Clark House AV and Storytelling Club. I'm running this. If that's okay. It's more than okay, she said. Outside, reporters buzzed in the distance, one calling out, Miss Clark, any response to the anonymous threat you received last month? Sienna didn't even turn. People are always going to have something to say. What matters is what we do. And with that, she joined the line of parents registering for after-school programs. The day ran long. Music, dancing, speeches, tears. Joy bloomed in every corner. But that night, when the last guest left and the lights dimmed to a soft glow, Sienna walked the quiet halls of Clark House alone. She moved past the pantry, the clinic, the mural in the lobby. Her heels echoed softly against polished floors. Then, on the welcome desk near the entrance, she spotted it. A small folded piece of paper, clean white, placed gently atop the visitor sign-in sheet. She opened it. 5 words, carefully handwritten, for the one who stayed. She stared at it, breath caught somewhere between her ribs and her heart. She looked around. No one was there. Maybe Lily, maybe Legacy, maybe something else entirely. But it didn't feel like a warning. It felt like grace. 6 months later, Clark House pulsed with life. The tutoring lab was packed with teens prepping for finals. Down the hall, the aroma of hot meals floated from the community kitchen, where volunteers plated trays with care. In a side room, Maya sat cross-legged on the floor beside a Cooper Tech engineer, proudly soldering wires for a small robot. She'd named it Kindly. Sienna walked the halls with confidence now, clipboards in hand, sleeves rolled, hair tied back. She'd learned the language of nonprofits and spreadsheets, of community organizing and grant cycles. But more than anything, she'd learned how to lead without losing herself. John visited every other week, lighter on his feet now, smiling more often. The dark circles had faded. He no longer avoided conversations about Lily. Instead, he welcomed them. The pain hadn't disappeared, but it had changed shape. Each quarter, the Clark House team posted full financial reports online, line by line, dollar by dollar. The audit passed with flying colors. Transparency was no longer a promise. It was policy. News of the model spread fast. Clips of the mural went viral again. And soon, Clark rooms popped up in barbershops in Detroit, laundromats in Oakland, mosque basements in Queens, and Sunday school classrooms in Birmingham. Wherever there were people, there was a need, and the blueprint was now public. One cool November evening, Sienna stopped to fill her tank on the way home from work. The gas station lights buzzed overhead, a familiar kind of hum. Across the lot, a young man stood beside a broken-down sedan, hood popped, phone pressed to one ear. His toddler wailed in the back seat. He looked around, hesitating, flustered, unsure whether to ask for help. Sienna stepped inside, bought a bottle of water and a tire patch kit, then crossed the parking lot. Need a hand? She asked gently. He looked up, startled. Yeah, I think the tire blew. I don't have a spare. My daughter's freaking out. Sienna smiled, crouching beside the car. Let me make a call. 5 minutes later, roadside assistance was en route, paid through Clark House's community account. The man stared at her like she was a miracle. You work for them? I helped build it, she said. We all did. He shook his head, eyes still wide. Thank you. I don't know how to repay you. You don't have to, she said, handing him the water. Just don't forget it. She drove off. The city quiet and warm beneath a soft night sky. A billboard loomed ahead, lit from below. Clark House, where kindness begins. Sienna smiled. $8 taught a billionaire how to give, and taught the world how to begin.